All right, so I've been tempted to change editors for a while now, and I made the plunge into trying to learn Vim and learn how to program Rust while in Vim. And I just want to go over some of the things I learned about that process, and hopefully it'll help someone else in their Rust Vim journey. All right, cool. Let's get it. All right, so first and foremost, I just want to throw it out there that I am new to Vim in all aspects. So some of the things I say may not be wholly accurate, but I thought this process was convoluted enough that it should be documented. So let's get to it. So if you go to Rust tools, right, they will show you first class editor support. And in this view, you can see that Vim is here. If you click on Vim, it's going to take you to let me just click on it just to show. It takes you to the rust.vim GitHub page. So rust.vim, what is that and what does it give you? This is a Vim plugin that provides Rust file detection, syntax highlighting, formatting, syntastic integration, and more. It requires Vim 8 or higher for full functionality. Some things may not work in earlier versions. Alright, so this thing from the get-go, file detection, syntax highlighting, formatting, whatever syntastic gives you, and it does note some of the requirements. Vim 8. Okay? So syntastic I already have open, that is here. I'll go to the top so you can see it. Alright, so what do they say about themselves? Syntastic is a syntax checking plugin for Vim, created by Martin Grenfell. I think that I pronounced that correctly. So it checks your syntax, and then they have an image sort of displaying that. So this is what you, oh, I wish that could be a little bit bigger. Can it be bigger? Guess it cannot. I'm gonna go back to the other page then. So, because it's bigger here for some reason. I don't know why. Anyway, so this is kind of what it gives you. If you look at this, you can see it tells you the lines where there may or may not be syntactical errors. And then when you hover over those lines, it gives you, well, down here it's going to have all of the list of errors, which you can scroll through seemingly and then click on them, maybe to jump to it. I've seen it done. I haven't done it myself. I typically just go to the line and then read the error. But yeah, you get this in your editor, in Vim. And I know they're using gvim, but this also, or gvim stands for GUI, but you can also get this in your terminal Vim. All right. In terms of requirements, it, according to this thing, doesn't say it has many requirements, and it says it should work well with a bunch of different third-party Vim plugins, which we haven't even talked about yet. But it looks pretty agnostic in terms of everything involved. So far we talked about rust.vim and syntastic. Another thing that is, at least in my opinion, mandatory would be Rust Analyzer. So let me make this a little bit bigger. So Rust Analyzer is an implementation of Language Server Protocol for the Rust programming language. It provides features like completion and go-to definition for many code editors, including VS Code, Emacs, and Vim. So as you see here, this provides completion in the sense of if you're trying to type a method name, it shows you the list of method options, and then you could complete it. Go-to definitions, I actually haven't used that, so I'm not exactly sure what that is in terms of functionality. But the completion thing is by itself well worth installing this. Yeah, so now we have these three things. Okay, so Rust Analyzer on this page is the website for it, doesn't give us instructions to how to install it via Vim. And I searched around and this is the only thing I came up with, which is the, let me go to the top, the COC Rust Analyzer. And it's a Rust Analyzer for Vim/NeoVim. Okay? And it's an extension that works with COC and Vim, which the installation looks like you require something else. So in order to get Rust Analyzer, you seemingly need COC and Vim, which you go here, and this is it. See at the top, coming down. It's called Conquer of Completion. make your Vim/NeoVim as smart as VS Code. Okay, and they give an example. So clicking here, you can see this is the completion I was talking about, where you're writing things. Oh, it also tells you like other like namings that you've already defined in the code, so it can complete things, variable names that you've already defined. And it just selected, and it looks like it gave the documentation of the function too. So yeah, this is what we want in our Vim for Rust. Okay, so going to the requirements of this. This one requires Node. It says greater than 10.2 or 10.12, and it gives you instructions on how to install it. It also has a requirement of Yarn, which I don't think is mentioned explicitly here, but you can see that in the documentation. You can see that in the files. It has a Yarn file. Plus, if you try to run it without Yarn, it yells at you. All right. So those are 3 things we want. We want Rust Vim, we want syntastic, and we want this Cocoa Rust Analyzer. And so far we heard the requirements are for Rust Vim we need at least Vim 8 or higher. For syntastic, didn't really need anything. And for Rust Analyzer, we need Node and we need Yarn. Cool? So in terms of Vim, installing the right version of Vim, I run Ubuntu. My package manager had a version of Vim. The version of Vim they had wasn't high enough, seemingly. So I had to find the PPA and register it and then install Vim 8.2, which sounds okay to me. I'll put all of this is going to be in the description, by the way, so the links will be there. But yeah, add the PPA and install Vim. So that takes care of the Vim requirement. We still have a Node and Yarn requirement. So for Node, that is from here. They give instructions on how to install Node. I didn't see this the first time I was going through, and I'm not sure if I would have followed it. I don't know. My practice for installing Node is to use Node Version Manager. So I would install Node Version Manager, and then I would install Node via Node Version Manager. So let's get down here. So there are a number of ways to install Node Version Manager, and they list them here. Like this is one way. What way did I follow? I followed the Git way, which works as well, where for Git here we go. You clone the repo, put it into .nvm on your root. You go into the repo, you check out the latest tag, and then you activate it. And you pretty much activate it by putting this into your bash RC, and then you have access to Node Version Manager. And then via Node Version Manager, you can install, go to usage, you can install Node for the latest one, but you can also look at all of the remotes. And I suggest looking at the remotes because they note which ones are LTSs. So if you scroll down here, right, they have a schedule link that shows you the different LTSs, and the current LTS is this one. So if you look at the node, well, let me just demonstrate it. Make it a little bit. So if you look at NVM, I believe it's ls remote. It's going to give you all of the versions that you can install. And it looks like since I've done this, a patch release came out for the LTS. Understood. But what I wanted to show is here. They show you the latest LTS. And I would just suggest installing the latest LTS version of Node. Installing it, which they demonstrate here. Do that? Yeah, you just put nvm install and then the version that you want, which in our case would be v12.18.2. And then lastly, you would have to make that your that version of Node your default for your terminal. And the way you do that, I just saw it in the help for NVM, is NVM alias default, and then you put the version that you installed. And then you have Node, the LTS. Lastly, you still need Yarn, which I forgot to open that page, but I believe it's this one. And more or less, make this bigger, that is just npm install -g for global yarn. And with that, I think you have all of the basic requirements for building everything else. So let's go back to the plugins. So for rust.vim, in the installation section, they have many different package managers. Apparently, from what I've learned, Vim 8 is the default built-in package manager, and this is fairly new to Vim. And then there are all these third-party package managers. My suggestion, at least for installing the Rust packages, is to use Pathogen. Not because it's better or worse than anything else here, but because there's explicit instructions for Pathogen on this page for for rust.vim, and on the syntastic page, there is explicit instructions for Pathogen on their page as well. So you could just follow their instructions one by one without having to figure out what you need to install, how to go about installing it. And for that, you have to install Pathogen, which on the syntastic page, they do give a link to the Pathogen page, which tells you how to install it. So go back a little bit, the process would be to go to syntastic, or well, ultimately go to the pathogen.vim page, but you can get there via the syntastic page. You will install Pathogen first, which is pretty quick. It's just this for the most part, I believe. All right, so one thing I forgot to mention is that on the Pathogen page, so go back so you can see where I am, Pathogen, Vim, they give you instructions for how to make sure Pathogen is running. They do that by telling you what to put in your vimrc file. If you already have one, do this. If you're new to Vim, do this. I put that in mine, seems to work. Right, now once you have that, you can be sure that the other stuff is working. So once this process is done, you can come to, let's start with rust.vim, and you can install it via Pathogen, just this link. For syntastic, same deal for the most part. That's installing Pathogen is this one right here, syntastic.get, and it just puts it into vim.bundle, or sorry, .vim/bundle. So that gives you everything you need for rust.vim. And then for the analyzer, that is here. So for coco or coc.nvim, the way to install it, they do not have a Pathogen way, but they do give instructions for, let me see if I can find it. I believe they give instructions for just installing it the regular way. So on this link, it says install coc.nvim. Here they give instructions for how to install it. Oh, they also give instructions for Yarn. So if you want to go through their version of installing Yarn, that's an option. But more importantly, they give Vim 8 native package manager instructions for how to install it. And this is what I followed. I followed this mainly because I didn't want to have a bunch of package managers for Vim installed on my machine. I'm not sure if they will ever conflict in any way, shape, or form. Do not know how that works. So I thought it was safer just to have one, and I settled on Pathogen. And given that this doesn't have an explicit pathogen way, or at least that I know of, I thought this would be safe because it's just native package manager. It's not me adding a new variable to the equation. So yeah, the instructions for that is just this first part, and that should work. So then we can go back to this one, the COC Rust Analyzer. And to install this in your Vim editor, you can do the command and then install it directly that way. And I believe that's it for the most part. Once you have all of this completed, it will give you your syntax highlighting, your file detection, your completion, go-to, not sure what that is, but you'll have that as well. Anytime you save, you can get to see new compilation errors just on the side with syntastic. And probably this too. I think this changes some of the formatting of that. Yeah. With that said, that's the end of the video. I hope this process works for other people. This was very confusing for me, so hopefully it won't be confusing for you. With that, if you like the video, hit like, subscribe, yada yada yada. Till next time. Peace.